Hi folks, we're back here today with another video. And today, well, I say we're going to look at something a little bit different. I always say that, don't I? Quite often I'll say, we're here to look at something different today. But here we are. Today, we're going to look at something different. I picked up this Game Boy in a lot a couple of days ago and it arrived. And as you may be able to tell or not, I don't know, depending on your colour settings, it's very yellow, okay? For comparison, this is quite a bright white box that I've got, and that's the Game Boy. So we can see there's quite a lot of yellowing, even inside, you know, sort of the speaker grill looks really yellow. And just for comparison, again, this is the back side of it, which hasn't yellowed as much. And certainly inside the battery compartment is quite clean. Or white, yeah, this is... But anyway, so as you may have guessed from the title of the video, what we're going to be looking at today is making our own tune chamber, retrobrighting fumes chamber type thing. And regular viewers of the channel will know that 8 or so months ago, I had a go at doing my first retrobrighting, for want of a better phrase, with the fumes from the hydrogen peroxide, leaving it outside in the sun for what turned out to actually be about a week, about 8 days in total. It was about 3 days more than I intended to, but you know, these things happen. And I thought actually the results of that were quite good. So I've seen bits and bobs around the internet and people trying different things. And I thought one thing that I wanted to try was how we can accelerate that process, possibly, or if not, just completely debunk whether or not you could use UV LEDs to improve, to speed up, or to do nothing to the retrobrighting process, making this yellow plastic turn back to a white, you know, back to its glory days. So like I said, I picked up a reel of UV LEDs, ooh, pretty, from eBay. I'm going to sort of stress, I did very little research into this, if I'm honest. I didn't look into the intensity of these UVs, their you know, power outage or whatever. I literally just went on because I thought, you know, like everything that I do, this is going to be like off the cuff, almost ad hoc. Heath Robinson, let's just throw something together and see what happens. Because I feel that that's something that a lot of us can sort of empathise with. That's how we try things in repairing and things like that. You just sort of have a go and see what happens. So if you're unfamiliar with the process, essentially what we do is we take a tub of some sorts and you place your device inside, and hopefully without destroying it. And the more common method at the minute, or a popular method at the minute, isn't to cover or fully submerge, or this is a method I've seen anyway, fully submerge the device in hydrogen peroxide or cover it with the gel or things like that. It's to partially fill a tub, and it's the sort of the fumes that will strip away the yellow from the plastic, as opposed to actually sort of smearing it and bleaching the device itself. I popped this in the bottom just so that it doesn't sit directly in the liquid. I don't actually think it does it loads of damage, and certainly the circuitry and you know, the voodoo inside the Game Boy, that won't be in there. We will have taken that to bits. And this is actually a project that I'm going to be working on in a different video, replacing battery contacts and things like that, and cleaning up the screen. But I thought I'd do two birds with one stone, and while we're at it, look at retrobrighting this and yeah, making sort of our own little box. So, like I say, my original idea when we did it before was to have this outside with the lid on to keep all those fumes in. I left it out in the sun. I say the sun, this is Britain. The sun's never really out, is it? Let's be honest. Apart from, you know, possibly 4 hours one day once a year. But, you know, the heat that it was generated, it did work, for want of a better phrase. What I've thought about then going on doing, like I said, is to put it in some kind of lined box. potentially thinking about lining this box with foil to give it extra reflectivity. That's not a word, is it, surely? But you get the idea. We're going to line this with potentially with some tin foil, pop the lid on. We'll have the cable coming out of the box somewhere at the back, and we'll just leave it. I don't know, maybe I did think about checking in after an hour, 6 hours, etc. But I don't know, maybe we'll just play that one by ear. So as this is a proper Blue Peter project, obviously other children's TV shows are available, I'm literally just going to build this as I go. I haven't got one I made earlier. I thought we'd just sort of have a go at doing this together and seeing where it takes us. So the other thing I'm going to mention is at some point there's probably going to be some soldering involved, as we're going to need to potentially run these around, you know, at corners and what's the word I'm looking for? You know, come back on ourselves with these, and I don't really want them to be bent. They don't really bend very well, so I may snip them just in the middle and run a line of cable and solder them back together, so we've sort of got nice tracks. I'll see. But the first thing we're going to look at is getting this. So we'll line it with foil. Let's have a go at that. Now, I was going to glue it, but I think one of the wonderful things about foil is it kind of just stays in place if you, you know, if you took it down into the corners. So, yeah, let's have a little go, shall we? Okay, so if we were to be doing this now, let's see, so it should fit. Yeah, that just about fits, doesn't it? It drops on top. It drops on top just fine. Like I say, we're not looking to win any awards for design of the year just yet. Maybe that'll come in version 2. Who knows? Right, so the next thing we're going to look at doing is running our LEDs inside, inside here. And I thought, given the amount that we've got, we wouldn't really, you know, we wouldn't cheap out. We may as well use all of them. I've not really got any further use for UV LEDs, certainly not at the minute. So what we need to do is we need to make a little hole, don't we, for the first ones to run in. So let's try and make a hole without stabbing myself. And as this isn't the area that's going to be having the liquid in, then we don't have to worry about it being watertight. It literally just needs to keep the UV light in, really. Right, so let's get these in here. Easier said than done. I need a pokey thing. Let's see, what can we poke with? Pen, you can do. Let's see. Right, let's get you through there. There we go. Okay, right, so probably should have made it off to one side, really, shouldn't I, for the first one, but never mind. Okay, so I reckon if we although we're going to want them We're going to want them all in. Yeah, we are, aren't we, for that USB connection. Okay, so we'll put them all in. Like I said, we're making it up as we go along here, folks. We're making it up as we go along, and that's fine. So as always, if anybody spots anything or has any comments, good or not so good, but please be kind, feel free to drop them. Yeah, drop me an idea. You know, oh, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? I would have done this, etc. Always happy to take a bit of advice. And actually, if we put that there, that'll be fine, won't it? Right. See what I'm going to do. I'm also going to fire up the hot glue gun just while that's sitting there. I'm going to fire up the hot glue gun, and I'm going to do it in a quick cut like this. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, and we're back. Did you like that? Seamless, I'm sure. So we've fired up the hot glue, and I'm just going to sort of bend this into place, and hopefully, without scolding myself, we can just get that glued in. And it'll just give it something just to hold on to. And I know that the foil could potentially tear and will probably tear, but we can have a go, can't we? There's that little bit of runoff, isn't there, with hot glue? It goes everywhere. Just that little... Stand up. This little... Yeah. It's like a spider web blaster thingy. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a second just to dry. It's taking a little while. And then what we're going to do next is I'm going to run the LEDs up here until we get to the closest edge we can. Probably there. I'm going to snip that. And we're going to run a line back down here. We're going to snip there. And then I'm going to run a line of them back up there, which will then connect to a run. We'll hopefully go all the way around. My dog says hello. I suspect in a second he's going to start barking because he's just spotted some birds outside. Although no, he feels he's done his job. Ow, that's still hot. I suppose what I didn't bank on is that when this moves, it may lift up the foil. Anyway, right, so let's do a little bit of cutting, and then we can use the double-sided tape on the LEDs to stick. So, we are cutting at should we go for that one or that one? Let's go for this one. Who said anything about needing room? There we go, the dog says hello. So, now what we can do is we can peel off our double-sided tape and pray that we can get this stuck down in one motion without it coming into contact with the foil and sticking before we want it to. Also, that hot glue is still incredibly hot. Ow! And we'll snip that bit off. I say it was incredibly hot. It wasn't really that hot. Just being a bit of a hypochondriac. And we'll just double check.
Yeah, we've got some UV. So what we'll do next is we'll find that end that we've just cut, which was that one, and we'll run enough for a line all the way down to there, which will be that one. So we'll cut that. Just about leaving us enough to solder onto. And we'll get the glue gun unplugged and we'll get the soldering iron plugged in. And we'll get these pads tinned up, I think, before we try and stick them down. It should make it a bit easier. I think it's going to be a bit of a faff, if I'm honest. But who doesn't love working with tiny little things in tiny little spaces, eh? Right, let's use this one, and Benzo Brown is the next one. We'll use that. I don't really use these anymore, and I got loads of them, so we can chop them up for now. I want to leave ourselves a little bit to work with, don't we? But we don't want too much knocking around, so let's go for that, and roughly the same amount. As usual, they're flying off. We'll trim the edges. And hopefully, he says, hopefully we'll be able to do this with minimum fuss. So what I'm doing here is just stripping the edges of my wire, just so we've got something to solder with. You don't want the plastic. Yeah, you can't solder the plastic. And again, I suspect if you're watching this video, you already know that. There we go. Right. So we're going to apply just a little bit of solder to these pads that are left over. My tip is absolutely filthy. Just need to get my sponge. Got the sponge. Okay. So I'm going to be a bit of a maverick. I'm not going to go with any flux today. I'm hoping that these should be nice and clean and that the solder will flow. Although famous last words and all. That's a bit better. Ah, here we go. The dog says hello. Not sure if you can hear him or not. He's shouting at something very dangerous. Something that's coming to attack us. It's usually the delivery man. And I think while we've got the pads down here, we'll get the wire on. I always feel very, I want to use an expression, khaki-handed when I'm doing these, because I can never get my hands in the right place. Ah, right, just had a thought. Let me just trim that. I've got a horrible feeling that if I foil lined this, and there's a bit of exposed wire, is that going to touch the foil and short it all out? That's something I've not considered. off. More solder on there. This has proven a little bit more difficult than I thought it would. It's melted the plastic and just not really playing fair. Try one more time, then we may have to just... Okay, it's better. Okay, so now we've got that on there, we'll go ahead and get them soldered into there. The first thing I'm going to do before I do that is just tin up these pads, which I'm sure will be delightful to do. Should have done this first. Okay, now we've done that. Where have I put them? There we go. We'll get them soldered in first, I think, before we stick them down. I think that seems like a sensible idea to do, just in case we have to abandon all hope. And that's already dropped off. So we're going to need to resolder that on. Perhaps I should have gone with some flux. Let that be a lesson to you. Yeah, I think in hindsight, flux would have helped it flow better. I'm not 100% sure. But that being said, when it's all in, we can always get some glue on that and just hold it down with some glue. Okay, let's just give that a whirl and just see if the power flows. Okay, not bad. Yeah, it might be ugly, but it does the job. And I think what we'll do is we're going to get the hot glue gun plugged back in, and then we can get that glued down rather quickly to stop any further movement. Oh, honestly. Okay. Right, I'm going to pause the video there for a second while the glue gun heats up, etc. You don't need to wait for that. We'll come back in a second when I've got all this glued down and looking, well, I'll say a little bit better. Yeah. See you in about.
A few moments later.
Right, so we've got these bits in, yeah, and we're just about to get the final, I say the final, the last one for this bit in. And I think what we're going to do with this one is we're just going to literally just run it all the way up and then up and round the sides. I'm not going to sort of bother too much about wiring up, given how tricky this has been. So the last thing I need to do is just get this bit in here. And I think what I might do actually is peel off some of the blue and stick it straight down. Just need to make sure I leave enough. Because at least that'll give us, I can come at an angle as well, give me something to anchor with when I'm soldering. So we've got let's see, we've got black on. I had to think then for a second. To look, I couldn't see because of all the glue. We've got black on positive. Let's put that brown one in there first, shall we? Get the longer one done first. This really does give me a newfound respect for Blue Peter presenters. Having to make projects like this. I'd say younger viewers may not remember Blue Peter, but I'm not 100% sure of whether we've actually got any younger viewers on this channel or not, apart from my son. Right, I think I'm going to need some tweezers, otherwise I'm going to end up burning my fingers off. Let's see, where are they? All right, so I can't find the tweezers, but I've got a pair of pliers. That'll do, in for a penny, in for a pound. It's gone a lot better. I did apply some flux off camera to that pad before I tinned it, and it seems to have gone a lot better. Just gonna Right, time for the test. Do we have power? We do. We've still got power running through, so that's good. So we're going to fire some glue onto there while we're winning. Cover all that up. Get that glued down. And like I say, now it's just going to be a case of running. We'll try and get this into an angle into the corner. Like I say, it's not going to be perfect, yeah, by any means. But as long as this sort of chamber, for want of a better phrase, is flooded with UV, it really, well, it should help the process. At least that's the theory. Oh man, I'm kind of torn now. Do I want to keep it neat or just bent? Should we just bend? I guess we can just bend, can't we? Yeah, that'll be fine. I didn't want too many bends on the floor of the box because I didn't want to run the risk of snapping it, putting a break in the cable, but we could probably get away with one. Let's just see if we're still up and running. Yeah, that's good. Just going to unplug my soldering iron because it's precariously close. I can feel the heat coming off. Oh, that's not going to help, is it? Pop it down there. On the floor will be fine. Right, let's just and I did notice that I've not quite got a full coverage with the foil. It was sticking up a bit, so actually this will just help stick that down a bit, which is nice. Right, so what we are going to have now is a situation, however, where we need to move onto the lid. So what I'm going to do is, again, I probably should have done this earlier, but I didn't know how much area was going to cover, is I'm going to snip there and get rid of some of this blue stuff, and actually I'm going to want the soldering iron back again. I'm going to run a couple of longer lengths of cable onto the lid. And I did, when I had this idea, I thought, oh, do you know what? I could get something like a barrel jack, or, something where we could plug in the two parts. But then I just thought, that is overcomplicating things slightly. We don't need that. I just thought we'll just have a couple of lengths of cable glued on, and that should do the job. So we'll stick with blue and brown because that's what we've been using. We want to make it look pretty, don't we? Don't want any confusion. So what I'm doing now is just put these are for connecting single pin things together, jumpers, etc. Not woolly jumpers. Circuit boards, etc. I think I bought them for a pie project that I did from Maplin, of all places. Well, not all places, because that's where you used to go before it shut down. R.I.P. Maplin. So I think what we could do is do we have enough? Let's say we could always go from there. Hang on a minute, I want to get this right. So that's going to be, we're going to want to start this side because that's where it's starting, coming out from the box. So we could actually have 1, 2, 3. Could do 4 lengths in this one, couldn't we? And then we'll have more light coming down from the top. So if let's cut these and tin these all in one go. Let's see if we can be really proactive. So we're going to want, this one's going to be a little bit longer. That one's going to go to there. That's my first one. Ooh. And then essentially just 3 runs. One. So I've just realised that this is all off camera. It's not really good, is it? Two. Also, pardon the sniffing as well. Awful cold. 3, and then we'll just run the last one into infinity. So I'm just going to go ahead and tin up these ends. Like I say, yeah, you don't need to watch that. I'll be back in a second. Right, folks, so quick update. And I'm actually a little bit further along than I fully intended to be. I did the old classic, is my camera recording? Yes, it is. Oh, actually, no, it's not. So where we are at the minute now is I've connected the 2 halves together with a decent length, and I've gone ahead and glued this down, the lid to the main box. And now we've started to run the cable between the runs on the top section. What I was just finding was actually I'd cut a couple of the bits too short, so I had to use white. And what I was actually chatting away to the camera when I realised that I wasn't recording, and what I was saying was, like, I've wanted to do something like this for a while, and I'm not overly fussed at the quality of it. I don't know what sort of results we'll get, but if we did get something that was worth pursuing, then, you know, 3D printing something, buying some sort of mirrored tiles. I've done a little bit of work around the house with LED lights and stuff, so I'm aware, you know, that you can buy those connectors. Like that one, also black, isn't it? It should be brown. To make connecting things together easier. So, you know, perhaps something that's what I'd look at getting in the future. I'm also well aware that this is a bit khaki-handed, again, using that term for soldering. I just don't have any tweezers with me right now, and I am all fingers and thumbs. I find it quite tricky sometimes to get a grip on things, for want of a better phrase, just looking for my solder. So I'm just going to use these. You know, the ends justify the means. Trying to do something where you've got half a chance at seeing what it is I'm doing. I think I might just speed this bit up. Enjoy. Okay, so we've got everything in. All the lights are in. And I'm just going to go ahead and just glue down these last couple of bits. And just run some glue over that end bit there as well, just to cover up those contacts. And really, that is our Blue Peter style UV chamber completed. The lid doesn't quite go down as much as it did before, but that's fine. And when it's plugged in, I can see a tiny little bit of leakage of light, but that's not going to make a massive difference. We've got enough slack there just to let the lid drop down by itself. And yeah, we've got sort of that full coverage of UV light. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is, I think we're just going to take the shell straight off this. We're going to go for it. We're going to get it in today, and I'm going to have a little think about how long we're going to leave it. Yeah, we're going to pause that one for now. I'm going to disassemble this, get the shell ready, get a box in there and all stuff, and we'll just go through that final sort of bit of getting it started. So back in a second. Right then, folks, so we're back. We're at the, what do you want to call it, the end game. We'll just have one more check that everything is working hunky-dory. So yeah, so we've got all the lights. I've gone ahead and popped in, so this is, like I say, literally to the top of a milk bottle, plastic milk container. And that's literally just so that the Game Boy case doesn't sit fully submerged in the hydrogen peroxide. And I'm still using the same hydrogen peroxide that I used before. I did a bit of research, did a little bit of reading on the different types that you can get. This was, I think, the strongest that I could buy at the time, I think. And this, you know, last time when we used it outside, it gave relatively decent results. Okay, it did work in fashion. So what we're going to make sure that we do with when we're handling any chemicals, I've got my glasses on, my safety goggles. I'm not going to show you those. But we're also going to make sure that we glove up. Okay, so we're getting the old fancy marigolds out for what we use for when we're doing the dishes. These are the fanciest ones we could find that have got the little frilly trim on. And actually, all jokes aside, these run all the way up to my elbow. So if anything does splash, then I know I'm going to be protected. So we're going to pour some into the bottle. Make sure we're using this in a ventilated area. Got the doors and windows open. And we're just going to run it to the bottom of the lid, because that should really be enough for the small area that we're using. So I'm just going to place it on top. Like I say, it doesn't overly matter if it gets some on it. I just didn't want it being submerged. And then now we'll pop our lid on. Actually, I am going to abandon that idea, sort of, in the sense I'm going to take it out so that when I push the lid down, I'm not pushing down onto the LEDs. I'm just pushing down onto the table. So we've got a nice click, a nice seal. That's going to go in there. And it's fell off. Best laid plans and all that. Okay, let's see if we can do this. Okay. Maybe that's something I'll have to think about in the future. how we are getting that in. Do we have a good seal all the way around? I think we do. And if it falls off this time, then we're just going to leave it as is. Yeah, it's fell off. Never mind. So we've got the light. We're going to say bye to the Game Boy for now. And I think I may give that 24 hours inside there. But full disclosure, I am going to come back and keep checking just to check the status of the USB power pack, the lights, etc. And I'm not going to be leaving it on overnight for obvious reasons. So I guess that's going to be bye for now. We're going to sort of flash forward into the future, and I'll come back to you in a day or so, and we'll see how we've done. So yeah, bye for now. Hi guys, so we're about 4 hours in now. It's getting close to actually probably more like 5 hours since the lid was closed. I feel like I'm cooking some sort of ceremonial ham or turkey or something at Christmas. Keep sort of having a little look. So here's where we are about 5 hours in. Good news is everything's still working. There's definitely some thing going off. I know it looks blue, but it is purple, UV purple, trust me. We can see some sort of condensation building on the inside. So something is definitely happening, and it does look a different shade inside. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of heat coming off of it, like warmth. I wouldn't say heat. The LEDs themselves aren't warm to touch, so there must be something coming off the reaction. Exothermic reaction. So yeah, and also I've switched from the plug to a battery pack, 5-volt battery pack, which is just draining down. And I am going to leave this overnight, safe in the knowledge that really, fingers crossed, touch wood and all that, it should be okay. So I'm going to come back to this in a couple of hours. I probably won't film that, but let's see what happens. So we've come to the end of our first adventure with the UV chamber, for want of a better phrase. And we've had some results. I would definitely say that this is several shades lighter. I'm not really sure what we're going to measure it on. I've not got a Pantone colour chart that we can measure this with, but from the naked eye, and hopefully, I know that I'm filming this in slightly different conditions than I did do the other day, but there has been some improvement in the colour of this case. Okay, it's not as yellow as it was, and if I just sort of pop them side by side, obviously the back side was a lot clearer anyway to begin with. If you can recall back, maybe I'll do a side by side screenshot or something where we can compare this. I left it in the chamber for around 12 hours altogether. I think it was just after lunchtime when I put it in about 1 o'clock, and I took it out a little bit before midnight. And I left it in there overnight, so at least any fumes and stuff sort of carried on reacting. So who knows? Perhaps I'll come back and revisit this the next time I get a Game Boy or something small that needs retrobrighting, or that sort of method. If you want to have a go at making one of these yourselves, by all means, drop me some comments. Let me know how you get on. Let me know if you have any better results than what I've had with this. And yeah, like I say, perhaps we'll revisit this at a later date. Realise I've got a random knife lying here. Used it for cutting something earlier on. What else would you use a knife for? As always, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider giving us a subscribe, hit that like button, leave us a comment, all those sort of things that YouTubers like to put mention in their videos. It really does help. We're really fortunate to have gone through the 3,000 hour threshold on YouTube recently, pushing towards that 4,000
hours and 1,000 subscribers where we can look to move on to that next level, which allows us to make more dynamic content. So yeah, when people say it really does support the channel with your likes and subs, it really does. So anything you can offer, if you've enjoyed this, will be well received. Ultimately, if you've enjoyed it, that's the main thing. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.